Jessica, can I have a word?
As I was catching up on some overdue chores, my husband Robert came home. It had been 15 years since our daughter Sarah had disappeared, and gradually, the conversations between us had dwindled to just necessary exchanges. When was the last time he started a conversation?
There's someone I really need you to meet. I'll call them in now.
Robert called towards the entrance, and with heavy footsteps, a plump young woman entered the living room. She might be in her mid-20s, but her chubby cheeks and jaw made her face appear much younger. Staring at the young woman's face, which was sporting a creepy grin, a shocking possibility crossed my mind. Could she be? Sarah, is that you?
Wow, to recognize me even after 15 years. You really are my mother.
I guess you never stop being a mom. But all that ends today.
Confused, I was looked down upon by Sarah and Robert, both sneering. Then, I was struck by a horrendous truth and lost for words, collapsing right there.
How funny. I just wanted to see that look on your face. It was all worth it, deceiving you for 15 years.
My husband, Robert, laughed heartily, oblivious to his own downfall, not realizing he was already spiraling toward ruin. My name is Jessica. I married at 24 and had our beloved daughter Sarah the following year, settling down quite early by today's standards. Looking back, my newlywed years might have been the most fulfilling time of my life. I've known Robert since high school. In high school, I fell for his passion at first sight and agreed to date him. But even though we became a couple, he never really spent time with me.
Sorry. I have something today.
And with that, he'd head home alone, feeling self-disgust, wondering if he was dissatisfied with me. I heard an unbelievable rumor from a friend. He was flirting with other girls. Shockingly, Robert was the type of a person who doesn't feed the fish he catches even in high school. Disillusioned with him, we broke up after only 1 month of dating, and we met again when I turned 20. He had become even more handsome, refined.
I'm really sorry about back then. I've changed. Can we start over, just as friends?
His sincere attitude touched me. Our friendship resumed, and 4 years later, we were happily married. Our daughter Sarah, strongly inheriting his traits, was already a striking beauty in kindergarten. My concern was her becoming spoiled and arrogant like him, especially when indulging her sweet tooth.
Mom, I want cake. Why can I only have one a day?
Because sweets can cause cavities, and eating too much sugar is bad for you. You already had lots of snacks today. Let's wait until tomorrow.
Mom's being stingy. Hey Dad, listen. Mom's being mean.
Come on. Let the kid have what she likes. If you make her hold back all the time, she'll end up grumpy like you.
I'm just thinking about Sarah's health.
I don't care. Dad said I could have it.
Thus, he and our daughter often ganged up on me, making me out to be the villain. She was notably more stubborn about sweets, even slightly overweight compared to other girls at her age. I wasn't overly strict. I just wanted her to have some moderation, because unchecked indulgence from a young age can lead to issues later. Yet, it seems my strictness seems mean to Sarah and him. My cousin Emily often lent an ear to my parenting woes.
Parenting sure is tough, but I think Sarah will come to understand your words once she's older.
Emily, who is 2 years older than me, is quite a privileged person in my opinion. She is what is called talented and beautiful, and even to me as a woman, she boasts dazzling good looks. She attended a top-level university and now works in public relations at her father's company. A truly successful life.
I'll talk to Sarah next time I see her. She's pretty open with me, you know.
I'm sorry to ask, but could you? I feel like Sarah doesn't really respect me.
You're imagining things. Anyway, I'll come over and we can hang out next Saturday.
Emily wasn't particularly fond of kids, but she'd occasionally come over to play and look after Sarah. Sarah was quite attached to Emily, and she was always in a good mood when Emily visited, probably because Emily always brought a lot of sweets. While somewhat anxious about my relationships with my daughter and husband, I was working hard every day. Frankly, Robert has moved from one job to another since graduating from high school, and his salary is considerably lower than that of his peers. As a college graduate employed at a respectable company, it fell to me to earn our living. It was tough balancing childcare, housework, and work, but seeing my family's smiling faces made it all worthwhile. However, that happiness would shatter during the summer when Sarah turned 9. That day, our family and Emily went to a park nestled in the mountains. We went there because there was a costume show of Sarah's favorite cartoon characters. Delighted by the show, Sarah wanted to play tag before we headed home. I was exhausted from work and wanted to pass.
Come on, it's our day off. Let's play together.
But my daughter pouted, and I ended up joining in. Robert and Emily were really into it, acting like kids themselves.
All right. Dad will be at first.
No hiding behind the playground equipment. Let's make it a fair game.
However, about 30 minutes into our game of tag, I felt something was off. Despite running all over the park as it, I couldn't find Sarah anywhere. Though the park was relatively large, the playable areas were well maintained, so it didn't make sense that 3 adults couldn't find one child after a thorough search.
She'll pop up soon enough. You worry too much.
Yeah. Jessica, you always worry too much. No need to panic.
Robert and Emily kept saying this, but after an hour of searching, they began to look panicked themselves.
Hey, this isn't right, is it? Sarah, tag's over. You win, so come out now.
Hey, I'm getting hungry. Let's go have some sweets. You want some too, right, Sarah?
Please, I'm worried. Come over here now. Sarah, where are you? Despite our frantic efforts, shouting and searching the park, Sarah did not appear. 2 hours after her disappearance, we felt utterly helpless. We should call the police. It would be terrible if something has happened.
But isn't that a bit much? Let's keep looking a little longer.
No way. What if she's gotten into some trouble? Ignoring my husband's objections, I called the police. Initially, the police took a casual approach, but seeing my earnest expression and desperate tone, they started a thorough search.
It's okay. Remember how Sarah sometimes plays pranks to surprise you, Jessica? It's probably just that this time.
Unable to bear the pausing moments, I collapsed there, and Emily comforted me, rubbing my back. However, despite Robert and the police's desperate search, Sarah vanished from our sight, never to appear again. After filing a missing person report, I lost the will to live, and food wouldn't go down my throat. I was disgusted with myself for not fulfilling even the basic duties of a parent by keeping an eye on my child. It was Robert who encouraged me.
Hey, if Sarah saw you like this, she'd be sad, right? Let's do what we can for now.
Encouraged by Robert's words, I threw myself back into work, and at Robert's suggestion, we started a fund.
Can't we do something for underprivileged kids? It's not just to atone for Sarah's disappearance, but I can't stand doing nothing.
Moved by his sentiment, I worked harder than ever, depositing all money beyond what was necessary for living into the fence account. I think that was the only way I could keep myself from breaking down at that time. 7 years have passed since Sarah went missing. Sarah was presumed to be dead. That can't be right. Sarah must be alive somewhere. She will appear before me again, full of life. Forcing myself to hold out hope, I whipped myself into a desperate struggle to stay alive. Then, 15 years after her disappearance, my wish was fulfilled in an unexpected way. That day, as usual, I came home from work and fed our cat, George. There, no need to rush your eating. George became part of our family after Robert suggested getting a pet when he saw me in despair. Though he's over 10 years old, he still has a hearty appetite. However, being a strictly indoor cat, George has several favorite spots around the house and often disappears except when it's time to eat.
Jessica, can I have a word?
As I was catching up on some chores, Robert came home. Lately, our conversations had dwindled to nothing more than necessary exchanges. Now I don't even know what kind of job he has. What's up? If you haven't eaten yet, I can start dinner.
No, that's all right. More importantly, there's someone I really need you to meet. I'll call them in now.
Just as I was about to do something wife-like, Robert called towards the entrance. Entering the living room with heavy footsteps was a plump young woman. She might be in her mid-20s, but her chubby cheeks and jaw made her face look younger. Looking closely at the young woman's face, which bore an unsettling grin, a shocking possibility crossed my mind. It couldn't be. No, there's no reason to deny it. If that's the case, she is. Sarah, is that you?
Wow, you recognize me even after 15 years. You really are my mother?
Where have you been all this time? Come, let me see your face closer. Perhaps due to the long absence, I couldn't feel the reality of Sarah's presence. She might even be an illusion, driven by a desire to dispel this fear and a longing to never let go again. I moved to embrace her, but Sarah stepped back.
What? You think this is a tearful reunion? Stop, it's creepy. Don't come any closer.
She showed her palm to me, signaling rejection. Even though I had just reunited with my daughter after 15 years, not being allowed to come closer left me bewildered. Completely confused, I sat down. Hey, what's going on here? I get that this girl is Sarah, but why is she acting like this? I asked Robert for an explanation as he looked down at me with a smug smile. Then, pointing at me, he burst out laughing.
How funny. Yes, that's the face I wanted to see. Sarah, how about it? Isn't the troubled face of the woman who's been a pain to you the best?
I've never seen such a foolish expression. Acting all motherly, always so strict. I really didn't want to come, but I'm glad I did what Dad said.
Laughing just like her father, Sarah jiggled her obese frame. Even though they were mocking me, I still thought to myself that they really were father and daughter. Then, I heard the front door open. Entering the living room was Emily, who looked just as beautiful as she did when she was younger.
Oh, you've already met. Yep, that's the dumb face I expected. Oh boy, it was worth deceiving you all this time. So, are we done clearing the air?
Not yet. Hey, did you bring what I asked for?
Yes, this right? Honestly, I don't know how you can drink something so sweet.
Emily said this as she handed Sarah a bottle of high-calorie soda, known for its sweetness. Seeing this all-too-natural interaction, I felt something was off. Wait a minute. Have you all been in on this together to deceive me?
Finally caught on. Yes, the disappearance 15 years ago was all staged by us. The police, the relatives, everyone was fooled like idiots.
Exhausted from laughing, Robert sat down on a nearby chair and began to reveal the truth about Sarah's disappearance.
Back then, I needed some money. But you, being the upright person you are, wouldn't arrange it without a good reason. My acquaintances and financial institutions were no longer options. So I figured a dramatic act was necessary. That's when I thought of staging Sarah's disappearance.
When Dad first told me, I was shocked. But to be honest, I didn't like you, Mom, so I thought, why not? I didn't have many friends anyway, and starting a new life seemed like a possibility.
That's when the proposal came to me. Helping out meant getting paid, and more importantly, I was happy to become closer to Robert. On top of that, Sarah was quite fond of me, unlike you.
With Sarah, who was dissatisfied with me, and Emily, who had taken a liking to Robert, they made up the story of Sarah's disappearance during a game of tag that day. The goal was to plunge me into despair, impay my judgment, and draw out the money. So that fun was.
All the money you deposited came straight to us. The letters from the people the fund supposedly helped were all fake. It's convenient how easily deceived people are when they're vulnerable. Thanks to that, you've been generously financing me.
Hearing my husband's words, I felt a boiling rage and a terrifying fear of the unknown. Using one's own daughter to deceive a spouse for money is not something a sane person would do. Sarah and Emily, knowing all this and still cooperating, seemed like creatures beyond my understanding.
Living at Emily's second house was heaven. No more being nagged about homeworks or eating too much candies. Instead, I could eat sweets whenever and as much as I liked.
For me too, working at Dad's company wasn't enough to cover the necessary expenses, so the money you put into the fund was very helpful. That's why I can stay so beautiful.
Sarah and Emily lived together due to their mutual interests, but it seems they didn't have any major conflicts. Emily's second house was much larger than ours, and it was good that they didn't have to see each other unless necessary. But you're supposed to be dead. What about school and all that?
Who needs school? You might not know this, being naive, but there are people in the world who will sell you someone else's background for the right price. When Sarah wanted to try attending high school and university, that's exactly what she did, posing as someone else.
Well, I never finished any schools. If it were you, you'd probably force me to go for my future, right? Emily would never do that. She respects my wishes, unlike you.
Responding to my questions, Sarah and Emily were triumphant smiles. Please tell me that everything you just said is a lie. But judging by their expressions, that seemed like a futile hope. I had been deceived by the people closest to me for 15 years.
Since we've gathered enough money from you, we're going to disappear from this country. We're off to gamble at casinos abroad, and then live a life of leisure. How about that for a life plan?
Seeing your foolish face has been the highlight.
Bye.
Loser.
Thinking I'll never have to see you again really clears my head. You deserve to live alone.
As my strength left me in shock, Robert and the others left our home, knowing their scheme. I hurriedly made a call to a certain place. Then, turning to my cat George, I spoke. Let's show them. 2 hours later, a call came in on my smartphone from Robert. Tapping the screen, I heard Robert's voice in a desperate tone.
Did you send the cops after us?
Yes, I did. After such a blatant confession of your crimes, it would be ridiculous not to report you.
There's no way the police would act so quickly without evidence in your story.
Normally, that would be true, but I have some evidence. I'm sending it to you now. Saying this, I switched screens on my smartphone and sent Robert a video file. Seeing the data immediately, Robert asked in a stunned voice,
Hey, how do you have this footage? Were you recording us secretly?
Apparently, he hadn't realized. George sometimes disappears inside the house, so I installed nanny cam in the bedroom. You wouldn't know since you hardly come by. Thanks to the nanny cam, I got all your confessions on video. With this evidence, I reported that people involved in forging passports were heading to the airport, prompting the police to act. Robert had mentioned they were headed abroad, which would definitely require passports. However, since Sarah was legally deceased, her passport would have to be a fake. Anticipating their next move to commit a crime, I assumed the police would intervene. I'll also make sure you pay for embezzling the Finn's money. I wonder how long you'll end up living in prison.
Damn it, stop joking around. Shit, the cops are here. Hey, both of you, let's run.
Robert cussed and hung up the phone. They were probably at the airport or somewhere similar, encountering the police and trying to flee. Later, the police informed me that they had apprehended Robert, Emily, and Sarah. Due to my involvement, I was questioned by the police several times. It was a tedious process, but the only benefit was the opportunity to talk to Sarah. You've grown up quite a bit.
It doesn't matter if I'm overweight. Like Emily, I can just get liposuction or plastic surgery to look pretty quickly.
So that was your mindset. But you should take care of your health. It could get serious eventually.
What? Don't start playing mom now.
Seeing Sarah's displeasure, I ended the visit without further conversation. Later in the trial, Robert and Emily received prison sentences. Emily, having been disowned by her wealthy parents, faced a tough life after release. Robert lost all his assets due to my alimony and damages. What kind of life he would lead after losing his job was no longer my concern. And as I had predicted, a serious blood disorder was found in Sarah, eating sweets indiscriminately to the point of gaining that much weight. Even someone in their 20s was at a high risk of disease. Whether or not she could start over while dealing with her illness depended on Sarah's efforts. Still, I can't just abandon her. Knowing Sarah's situation, I decided to support her treatment costs and watch over her quietly. She had deceived me for 15 years, but I still couldn't easily sever the parent-child bond. However, Sarah despised me, so she might refuse if she knew I was supporting her openly. It would be much better if she didn't know. Yet, my plan didn't go as intended in a good way. One day after work, I received a call from an unknown number on my smartphone. Hello, who is this? The voice on the other end was hesitant and poorly articulated.
Mom, thanks for the treatment costs. And I'm really sorry for everything up to now. I should have listened to you.
It's okay. We can still make a fresh start. Let's do this together. With tears in my voice, I made a promise to do everything I could to make up for the lost time with my daughter.